It's February 19th, 2023. Kyle Busch is running his 18th Daytona 500, and he's doing something he's only done once before: lead the Great American Race with less than 5 laps to go. The frantic pack racing of earlier in the day has subsided, and the front of the field is settled into a single file line. If this race goes green to the end, Kyle is going to win the 500 for the first time. Of course, Daytona is rarely that simple.
You're done. The race is over. There's a
Suarez around. Off turn 4. Caution waves.
2 Chevrolets behind you. Getting stacked up on the inside. Not at all. Here comes Stenhouse. Big shove by Larson.
And around goes the 3. Crash in turn 3.
Kyle Busch has won 63 Cup Series races in his career, good for 9th on the all-time wins list. Let's take a look at the rest of the top 10 and how they fared in this race. Richard Petty is the Cup Series winningest driver of all time, and he won 7 Daytona 500s. David Pearson is second, he won 1. Third is Jeff Gordon, he won 3. Bobby Allison and Darrell Waltrip are tied for 4th, they won 3 and 1 respectively. Jimmy Johnson and Cale Yarborough are tied for 6th, Jimmy won 2 and Cale won 4. Dale Earnhardt in 8th famously won 1 in 1998, and Kevin Harvick, behind Kyle in 10th, won 1. Of this elite group of drivers, only Kyle Busch is without a Harley J. Earl trophy. Why? Why has Kyle Busch, in what is now 19 attempts, never won the Daytona 500? Who did win these races, and what are they doing differently? And will Kyle ever win this race? Let's go back to 2005, Kyle's first Daytona 500. At this point in his career, he's a teenage rookie with just 6 Cup starts under his belt. Nobody's expecting him to win. His performance reflects this, a 38th place finish after getting caught up in a wreck somebody else caused. A year later, he's a 2-time Cup winner coming off a 20th place points finish. His sophomore 500 goes far better than his first. 23rd place, sure, but it's a lead lap finish this time, and he even took the lead of the race midway through. Unfortunately, his big moment was overshadowed on the broadcast by Matt Kenseth being mad as hell after Tony Stewart spun him a few laps earlier. In 2007, Kyle's been up front all day, but the race has been dominated by Tony Stewart and Kyle's brother Kurt. Kyle's, and the rest of the field's, only hope is that they somehow take each other out of contention.
Oh, there goes Tony. Oh my goodness.
Now it's on. Kyle inherits the lead after the crash, but he loses it on pit road. By the time the final restart rolls around, he hasn't led again, but he's hung on enough to be in second place behind Mark Martin. It's Mark's 23rd Daytona 500 start, and he's looking at his first Daytona 500 win and second ever win at the track, his first coming in a truck race a year ago. Coming into turn 3, Kevin Harvick and Matt Kenseth move to the outside. By the white flag, the outside line is fully established, and it's coming. On the backstretch, 2 things happen. David Gilliland tries to get ahead of Kevin Harvick in the outside lane, but Harvick and Kenseth go all the way to the wall to get past him. At the same time, Kyle fakes high and goes low on Martin, but Mark blocks him all the way to the yellow line. Now, the only way Kyle can win is if he somehow gets ahead of Harvick. He has to cross the entirety of the racing surface thanks to Gilliland's move, and it's too late. Harvick is alongside him. As he goes past, Kyle's chances of winning the Daytona 500 in his 3rd start have vanished completely. His misery's not over. Coming out of turn 4, his car glances the apron and breaks loose. In the future, he'll be able to save it when this sort of thing happens, but not here. Not as a 21-year-old hotshot. He tags Matt Kenseth as his car fully goes around, and sets in motion the fireworks that would serve as the backdrop for Martin and Harvick's iconic photo finish. In 2008, everything has changed for Kyle Busch. He's driving a new car with a new number and a new sponsor and a new engine for a new team. It's obvious from the jump that Joe Gibbs Racing is a good fit for Kyle, as he leads 86 laps in the 500. A new team comes with new teammates, and he's now paired up with one of the men who dominated the first 3 quarters of last year's race, Tony Stewart. It's Stewart's 10th 500, and he's also looking to win for the first time. In fact, Dale Earnhardt Jr. is the only driver in the top 10 right now who's won this race before. On the restart with 3 laps to go, Kyle jumps to Jeff Burton's inside right away. He's got Dale Jr. behind him and his teammate to the outside. But the inside line doesn't develop, and Kyle has to get in line in 4th place behind his older brother Kurt. Casey Kane forces Kyle low on the backstretch, and he's now 5th, falling away from the lead just as quickly as he took it. With 2 to go, Mike Joy says something about Tony Stewart that will come to define both Stewart and Kyle Busch.
This is Tony Stewart's 10th Daytona 500, and already people are lining up saying, are you ever going to win it?
Finally, the inside line develops, and Kyle is back. Newman and Stewart move down to block him, and Kyle pushes the two of them clear of Kurt on the outside. Unfortunately, this allows the two Penske teammates to link up. Kurt pushes Newman down the backstretch as Stewart moves low in the hopes that Kyle will do the same. Both Busch brothers are now pawns trying to secure the victory for their team. But the momentum only comes for one of them.
Ryan Newman, Roger Penske win the Daytona 500.
Way to go, guys. Way to go.
In 2009, Kyle has another rocket ship. He starts third, and within 3 laps he takes the lead from an old 500 foe driving his old car. He holds on to the lead for 50 laps before Dale Jr. passes him. Kyle falls to third behind Tony Stewart, who's left JGR behind to start his own team. Tony's replacement, Joey Logano, crashes on lap 77. Kyle takes the lead on the ensuing pit cycle and sets sail once again. With 82 laps to go, David Stramey blows a tire and brings out the yellow once again. This time, Kyle drops 2 places on pit road, placing him in the worst position possible for what's about to happen on the restart.
And all of those cars are cars that had made green flag stops prior to that caution. Boy, Brian Vickers, Dale Earnhardt Jr., that ain't going to work, boys.
Vickers hard.
Here we
Kyle
go.
Busch, the dominant car of the day, in the wall.
That was wrong.
And 10 cars sliding, slamming into the infield.
Jimmy Johnson,
wrong.
totally uncalled for. Totally.
I don't care who you are, that was just wrong.
Once again, he's been caught up in somebody else's mess. 2 years in a row of leading the most laps, and 2 years of nothing to show for it. 2010 doesn't bring much fanfare for Kyle. He leads 3 laps midway through the race and doesn't get involved in any wrecks, and on the green-white checker restart he's 7th, directly behind his teammate Denny Hamlin. But the inside line stacks up in turns 1 and 2, and a crash behind them means they'll restart again from further back. Kyle ends his 6th Daytona 500 in 14th place. 2011 brought fresh pavement and a brand new racing style at Daytona. Tandem drafting allows 2 cars to pull away from the pack by forming a 2-car bump draft. However, keeping this momentum up requires the bump draft to continue in the turns. If these bumps in the corners aren't handled with the utmost care, they're almost guaranteed to cause a wreck. Early on, Kyle finds this out the hard way.
Oh, Kyle Busch!
He'll battle back to finish 9th, but never really contends for the win. 2012 feels much like 2011 as Kyle once again leads 0 laps. With 5 to go, he's pushed by his teammate Joey Logano and alongside his old teammate Tony Stewart. Logano makes contact with Ricky Stenhouse, who hits Stewart, who tags Kyle on his way around.
Oh, Tony's going around. Another wreck to the tri-oval.
With just over 50 laps to go in 2013, it looks like Joe Gibbs Racing has figured it out. Their 3 cars are running in the top 3 positions. Everything's coming up Toyota until it suddenly isn't.
Because the bottom
Something's happening to Kenz's car. Is smoking now.
I saw that earlier going into turn 3, Larry. I know there was speed behind him.
And Darrell, a lot of it looks like it's coming out of the left front wheel area.
There it is. As Kenseth drops to the bottom. But his 2 Joe Gibbs teammates are now 1-2. Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch has worked his way back to the front.
With the way his car's been running, Kyle's got a shot at the win as long as it holds together.
And here comes Kyle Busch to pit road.
He just started smoking.
Kenseth's teammate is on pit road, Kyle Busch.
Kyle led some laps early in 2014 and was in the fight for the win towards the end. Coming to the white flag, he's in 4th place, but once again, contact with Ricky Stenhouse takes him out of contention. On the last lap, he once again becomes the backdrop for the finish. Looking at Kyle Busch's 2015 from afar, it seems to be a dream. 5 wins in his first championship. Without looking directly at the race results, one might assume that the motivating factor that won him the title was a victory in the Great American Race. A closer look, however, reveals he didn't even get to start.
Back across the field. The big one, part 2 at Daytona.
Yeah, they can't do this.
Kyle Busch will have to wait another year to make his 11th attempt at the Daytona 500. 2016 feels a lot like 2013 for the Joe Gibbs camp, but this time the engines are tuned to perfection. Matt Kenseth has led the last 40 laps, and all of the Gibbs-affiliated entrants are in the top 5.
You know what? I'm watching Hamlin. I just think
He might be the one guy that tries to spoil this party. He keeps looking to the outside of Kyle Busch. He might be saying, Kyle, you go, I'll go with you.
On the last lap, Denny Hamlin jumps high. Kyle doesn't go with him.
He's getting a big push. He's getting a big push.
He's coming. He's up to second.
Hamlin a second, up
Watch
high.
the inside. Watch the inside. Martin Truex Jr. 3 wide.
Truex to the bottom. No, red.
Kansas saves it. Here they come to the line. This is the finish of the Daytona 500. Side by side, bouncing off each other.
Once again, Kyle has a fast car in 2017. He's led 18 laps by the halfway point. Pit strategy has sent him and the rest of the Toyota pack to the tail end of the lead lap, but once the cycle is complete, they'll be right back in it. Kyle's tire has other ideas.
Whoa, Kyle Busch is around. Big wreck.
Wow. There's
Dale Jr. got involved.
Oh, Junior's in it, and Matt Kent's is.
At the end of the day, Kurt takes the checkered flag. It was his 16th attempt. Despite being level on championships and Kyle nearly doubling Kurt's total wins, Kurt now has the one trophy that has eluded Kyle his entire career. 2018 was a dismal 500 for Kyle. His tire would come apart twice in the first stage of the race, once to take him out of contention early, and again to remove all doubt. He would finish the race last of the cars still on track, 4 laps down. 2019 was a completely different story. Kyle's been at the front all day. With 10 laps to go, he passes Denny Hamlin for the lead as the big one happens behind them, and this time, it's the backdrop for him. On the restart, it's neck and neck between Kyle and Denny, until Clint Bowyer dissolves the bottom lane.
2 rows back, 3 rows back. Oh, Bowyer gets turned. Looked to me like he came up just a little bit too early on McDowell.
Denny Hamlin was ahead by a nose when the caution came out. In overtime, he never looks back.
No, side-by-side battle to the finish. This time, Denny Hamlin wins his second Daytona 500 and wins it for Coach Gibbs in Toyota.
Second place. Kyle's best Daytona finish in his 14th start. A familiar fate befalls Kyle in 2020. He's leading with 20 laps to go when his engine lets go. A 34th place finish, one of his worst. In 2021, he's in the lead pack on the final lap when he's caught up in someone else's wreck once again. In 2022, he leads laps early and stays by the front to the end, but the run doesn't come until far too late. He slams the wall as he and Chase Briscoe do everything in their power to gain whatever positions they can. All of this is starting to feel repetitive. Pick a way to lose this race and Kyle's probably done it at least twice. Hell, he's even had tire failures in turns 3 and 4 while running outside the main pack on 2 separate occasions. Something has to change. And that's how we find ourselves back in 2023. 2024 is far more similar to 2 years ago than 1 year ago. Kyle leads intermittently, but never for more than 5 laps at a time. Once again, he's near the front towards the end, but not at the front. The checkered flag waves for William Byron, and for the 19th time, Lady Luck has dealt a bad hand. I compiled a list of every Cup Series driver with at least 19 starts in the Daytona 500, with a baseline caveat of having at least 10 Cup Series wins. These drivers are, in ascending amount of wins, Sterling Marlin, Ryan Newman, Jeff Bodine, Buddy Baker, Penny Parsons, Bobby Labonte, Jeff Burton, Terry Labonte, Ricky Rudd, Dale Jarrett, Kurt Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Mark Martin, Bill Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Rusty Wallace, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Dale Earnhardt, Cale Yarborough, Jimmy Johnson, Darrell Waltrip, Bobby Allison, Jeff Gordon, David Pearson, and Richard Petty. Of these drivers, only one has scored his first 500 victory after 19 or more starts.
20 years of trying, 20 years of frustration. Dale Earnhardt will come to the caution flag to win the Daytona 500. Finally.
This is the latest into a career that any driver has ever won his first 500. Kyle could tie that record if he wins in 2025, and after that, he'll fall into uncharted territory. Remember this quote from Mike Joy back in 2008?
This is Tony Stewart's 10th Daytona 500, and already people are lining up saying, are you ever going to win it?
The answer to that question was ultimately no. Tony Stewart never won the Daytona 500. Neither did Mark Martin. Terry Labonte, the 2-time champion that Kyle replaced in his rookie year, never won it. His brother Bobby, whose famous Joe Gibbs 18 Kyle took over in 2008, also never won. These are NASCAR icons, legends, some with multiple championships. And none of them won the 500. Kyle Busch has publicly stated that his dream career path would see him race until 2030, when his son Brexton is 15 years old. If this stays true, he's got 6 more shots at the Great American Race. And I think that if anyone can win it after 20 times, it's Kyle. The reason I say this is his age. Dale Earnhardt was 46 years old when he won the 500 in his 20th attempt. Darrell Waltrip was 42 when he won in his 17th attempt. When Kyle Busch straps into his car in February for his 20th Daytona 500, he'll be just 39. In 2030, he'll be 44. So far, 2024 has been Kyle Busch's worst season to date, epitomized by the Daytona summer race. He was half a lap from victory, his first of the season, when Harrison Burton, the statistical worst full-time driver of the year, received a huge push and won the race. The reason I bring this up is that Kyle has seemed almost broken and demoralized this year. If he doesn't bounce back from this, he might not stick around for 6 more 500s. Since his switch to Richard Childress Racing, Kyle's been receiving noticeably less boos at the track. As he becomes an elder statesman of the Cup Series, many fans have grown to respect him. Still, his checkered past on the racetrack has earned him plenty of detractors that aren't likely to ever forgive him. I don't think every man on every crew would celebrate with Kyle Busch if he ever wins the Daytona 500, but I think all of them will know that he earned it.